Welcome back to the Angel Scrolls, and this is Ryan. Happy Easter Sunday. Easter is the time that we in this religion like to celebrate the life of Jesus rather than his death. Now, we've learned a few things over the years from the angels who expressed their concern of why people think that God needed to sacrifice someone he loved very much, Jesus, to forgive us for our sins. They want people to know that God didn't need to sacrifice somebody to forgive us, for he is a loving father like any other father would be, and he forgives us anyways. And if you think about it, what kind of God would want a sacrifice for something that he gives freely? It's almost like thinking about a God that in the Old Testament that would destroy the whole world because of some evil that was happening. God wanted, has talked about that before too, then wants us to know that he would not do anything like that. He's not that kind of a God, and that the issues that happened with Jesus wasn't a result of anything he wanted to happen, but religious evil, and how religious evil can cause something to happen like that. That said, I just wanted to give you a quick update on Danny. We're taking him again to the vet on Tuesday, which is 2 days from now. His spirits are up a little bit, and he's talking a little bit more, but he's still got fluid in his abdomen, and we're going to have to get some more drawn and find out what's causing that. So again, if you could say a prayer for him, we'd appreciate it. So before I start with this quantum reversal tutorial, I'd like to talk about what the angels have said to us earlier on. And quite extensively they asked for questions from people and try and get some participation happening. We didn't get any questions. Then they got to, because of that, they said, okay, if you don't want to ask questions, write the questions down, send them to a friend, and then we'll try and answer them. I kind of gapped that a little bit, and some of the questions that were in the last few videos that could have possibly been answers are, I might have not given you an idea or tried to explain that a little bit better. So I'm going to start looking at some of these videos in a different way. For example, if God wants somebody to help us in this religion, they're going to be very important people, and they're going to have to really believe and really know for sure that this is really happening. And he's going to have to find miraculous ways to get people involved. And maybe that's why it's taking so long. You can probably hear Danny talking a little bit in the background. He's sitting on top of the computer. But God's going to try and find miraculous ways to get people involved. And I believe this is what one of the things he's doing, is he's answering these questions through Danny and the angels that people are asking. So for example, before I move on to the first forward part of this, I'm going to give you some of the questions that they might ask, whether it's hypothetical or whether people are really asking them. You should know. If you're one of the ones that are actually asking God these questions, then you're going to get the answers, and you might even hear your name in there as well. There's in this video alone, there's 3 spots where names have been said. What I've done is I've just put question marks in for the names, and you might even be able to hear your name. So for the first question we have here, perhaps somebody's asking, how do we know that Danny isn't lying or trying to fool us? And the second question would of the same forward and reversal is, this has been going on for a long time. Why hasn't it been recognized as a miracle before? So let's see if we can find the answer for those questions in this part here.
You're such a sweetheart.
This part here, Danny talks a little bit about some of the people that have caused issues in the past, and it's been going on for 20 years where I've got large groups of people together. At one time I had a forum with several thousand people. I've still got a forum that's basically inactive right now of a budgie research group, and it seems like there's always a few in there that start trying to cause problems and sow doubt in people, and it does, and it only takes a few to cause issues, and a lot of the issues were caused when we had a lot of respect from, at one point I had a lot of respect from the animal intelligence community with regards to budgies using context, but when I started hearing them say spiritual things, most of them left, and because they didn't want to get involved in the spiritual aspects of what the budgies were saying. And I'll give you an example of one of the issues that we've had. If you do a search on the internet for Victor the Budgie, one of probably the first one in Google that comes up is Museum of Hoaxes, and they've been there for about 15 years, and or a long time. I don't know how long ago it started, but they talk about that, how this is a hoax and it can't be real. And I've been on there before trying to convince them in that, but to no avail. Ask them to take it down, they won't take it down. So when you do a search right away, the first thing you see about Victor is it's a hoax, and a lot of people don't even believe it when they come to the website, because they're seeing that right away. Why it's still been up there and who's put it up there, I don't know, but there's a reason for somebody putting it up there, and it's for the most part, I believe it's to try and discredit what I'm doing. So let's go to the next reverse part of this. In it he says, they're leaving no space to get involved in our mission. Trust me, there shall be a number of them on this project, and many prepare every night. Some even hope you shall bring witnesses and try and sow confusion. Early on we had to warn you, they rely on hate in every discussion. So if you remember early on in some of the videos that Danny did, we talked a lot about how we were going to deal with issues when things like this started to happen. And that was a warning to let people know that not necessarily to cause problems for anybody coming, but that the people that did come, when they started doing that, so you could understand the process which was going to happen and how we were going to deal with it. So let's listen to this part in the reversal of this part. Yeah, that part where he says that you will bring witnesses. So some might even just be waiting until somebody comes and say some good things, and then they're going to try and sow confusion by making bad posts and stuff like that. I've had that happen before. There's a bit of a pause in here, so I'm just going to move on. There's no talking, so I'll move on closer to the end.
You're useless, that's you.
Again, he's just talking about what these people that will come and what they try to do, that they rely on hate and bring it into the discussions. Yeah, there's a number of so-called debunkers out there that try and discredit every miracle, and they get their people together and try and bring them to places that they can sow distrust and hate, when something like this happens. In the next part, and forward part, Danny says, they'll actually cause us to help this community to get involved, so don't worry. Don't worry. When you're discouraged, adjust your thinking to that. Time. If you talk to them easily, they'll do it. You won't say anything that seems unfair if you're caring. Okay, let's listen to that in the forward. Okay, so I think the answer is just saying when this happens, we'll have to have the right people to get involved, and there'll be a number of ways we can do it in a caring fashion. In the next part, there might be a few other questions that are answered here. One of them could be, what can I do to help this project? And another one, why would they try to debunk or sow confusion in something like this? Well, I believe it could relate to a lot of things. It could have relate to animal intelligence. There's a lot of people that most of the scientific animal intelligence community believe that animals aren't smart enough to have conscious thinking and communicate on the same level as humans. Could have something to do with food produce. There's a lot of, face it, we rely on animals as our food source, and once we realize that some animals are so sentient, then we might have to think about changing what we're doing in that aspect. And there's also people that are religious fanatics, and the biggest problem is religious evil that comes along with that. Now, what is religious evil? We've learned that religious evil is something that makes you want to hate another religion because you believe your religion is best and your religion is the only way that you're going to get to heaven, and you see other religions as a threat to your religion or your belief system. But if you really think about it, our loving God has told us that he really doesn't care what you think or what you believe, because he understands that a lot of what you think and you believe is something that you've been is in your culture and that you've been more or less taught to believe, and he doesn't want to change that. He wants you to know that you have a right to believe in what you want. All he wants to do is bring you the spirituality aspect and show you how the whole process works, and that's what this religion is trying to do. So in the next part, you got to also realize that something like this could really change the world in a lot of ways once people realize that it's a miracle and start following it. So in the next reverse part, Danny says, you will carry on our knowledge, and he's answering to the question, what can I help to do? You will carry on our knowledge to any that will review it right while introducing this project. We'll have some prophecies that we are encouraging when they're finally viewed with love. We know that many sit by for a miracle, and they try to delay when God is here to stop it from inspiring you, so that power of the heart doesn't happen. So I cut into the forward part of that as well, but let's just hear the reversal of that first. Okay, so then he comes to the forward part in this and says, and try to delay when God's here to stop it from inspiring you, so that power of the heart doesn't happen. Inspiration, love, and power of the heart are incredible forces in nature that create energy to actually help these miracles happen.
Next time I'll have to try and set the tripod up so I can get it steady instead of just holding the camera like this, eh?
So in the next part, I want to look at a couple of questions that somebody might ask. How do the angels know so much about each of us, and how can we explain an omniscient God? I don't even know if I said that word right, but anyways, I'll figure that one out later. And another question is, what if I have my own belief system, and it seems like much of what you're saying goes against my religion, and that's why I'm so against it? Perhaps that is why people think they want to cause problems and harass you. So let's see what the answers are to the questions.
Yes, eller merken i låses deres. Hidets ringpels parapers das närmste framåt.
So how do the angels travel back and forth in time, and how does God know, and how can God be everywhere? Well, when you have eternity, and you have the ability to go back and forth in time, it doesn't matter who, you could get to know anybody or everybody in the world. You could have time to come and meet them, listen to them at any time, and that's the whole idea of God being everywhere and the angels being everywhere, because there is no space and time in heaven or in the metaphysical, and we can interact with the past, present, and the future at will. So let's go to this next forward part. In the last part, he said, the gifts that exist here is our mission that many will get. We want you to hear we're a family of God, giving our love. We don't mean to harass you breaking any code you have. If you trust him more, it's something. So let's say, for example, somebody asks the question that I feel like I trust in Jesus more than I would trust in a new religion. Well, that's fine. And the angels don't want to break that code. If that's the code that you feel and how your faith is, then that's fine. And they know that at least it's something, that there's a belief in God, and at least it's something, and that something is good. So it's up to you. So one of the next questions, well, let's listen to this forward part first. Sorry.
Nice wings.
Okay, and this next reverse part, I believe they're answering a question something like, how are the angels going to interact in our forum?
Yeah.
So the angels say that they feel, and I talked about it before, that something is beginning to happen. And once the movement starts taking place and this inertia starts to move forward, it's going to continue. It might start out small and increase as we go along. So before I move into the next forward part, so how somebody might think of, okay, so how do I know if God is calling me to help in this religion? I think what we got to think about is you have to choose to make the first step. When God recruits people, he'll do it in miraculous ways, and he has to make sure he has the right people to help start his new religion. So this kind of answers some of that and how it's happening. So in the forward mode, he says, they are covering as their choice if they can support this story, as many can hear me. And then in reverse, he says, they have found reason to review some video files Ryan has made. This is what you want. And then he says a name. I know what the name is. Maybe somebody else will be able to hear it as well. And let's go into the reverse part now. Okay, I'm going to play that one more time. Okay, in this next part, in the forward part, I actually took Danny's advice in this, and it's kind of interesting how this one comes. In previous videos, we've heard how the TV comes on with really loud and this music and that, and way louder than it should be, and then it's about 4 or 5 times louder than it should be. So it happened again this time, and the first thing that Danny said is you should cancel that. So I found that quite interesting, and then we did cancel it. So you'll hear that in this forward part. And one of the questions they might be asking is, how do I know that I'm not going to be alone if I start participating? I can understand that would be a concern to some people because of the lack of participation now. So, well, let's see if we can get some answers for that.
There goes that TV again, eh?
Okay, so I'll just repeat that what he says. Yeah, you should cancel that, okay? This is really the time to bear down and hide this confusion you bring to yourselves. You have your cute budgie, big kiss. You aren't alone, and everyone is not going to back out. This, and he says this might work out. It's going to continue in the next line, and I'll read that, or in the next reverse part, and I'll read that right now. So this might work out for them. You'll see it work out for you, and then he says another name. You'll have more time to complete your mission as you see this video and finally tell the truth of what you feel emotionally. And I'll give you this again. So let's hear that reverse part.
And I gave you that order.
So every time you see a couple of question marks together, that's usually a name. So somebody might want to also ask, how do I know that God wants me to do this? And the answer would be, possibly would be, well, you've got a lot of support in your work. It's an exception that you're still working right here. We truly mention we see your control, and something you can guarantee is how you're recording literature for God. It always shows we know that budgies and angels want this. Sorry, it always shows. So let's hear that part. So we know that the budgies and the angels want this, but how does someone know that God wants this and supports me? Let's hear what he has to say for that, but I'll read it off first. He will show how he appreciates all you have done. He kindly sits in heaven, rooting for Ryan, his February prophet. He shall bless you for the rest of your life. Your adventure is beginning right now, and he says a name. It's interesting. This kind of sent chills up and down my spine when I heard February Prophet, because I was born in February, and I listened to it over and over again, and it's definitely what he said. So here, I'll let you hear that right now. I'll replay that again. So again, question marks, there's a name in there. I guess, I know what the name was, but hopefully he's saying your name. So in this next part, a question might be, now that I've seen the proof, what can I do next? And he says, you needed proof, and you can get it. When you know, get to work and write continuously. You should be allowed to explain what works here. Remember, we dream just like you. So another question for that might answer the reverse part of this is, I'm not sure if Ryan is ready and capable of taking on such a big mission for God. For example, he made a big error in the last video and called an important religious holiday by the wrong name. Yeah, I made a mistake, and I was pretty embarrassed about it. Sometimes it was almost like calling, you know, a family member by the wrong name. I wasn't thinking, and I was distracted, and I said Thanksgiving instead of Easter, and I went back and fixed it right away as soon as I found out. So let's hear, and here's the answer that they have for that question. Will Ryan be ready for the review? We'll be there when it happens. We know that humans make mistakes. It is evidence Ryan is very new at developing his heavenly song. We need him. Okay, let's move on. There's a lot of dead space in that, no reason listening to that. The next question that someone might have is, why did Ryan correct the video and put up a new version if he made such a mistake? Why didn't I just basically leave it there and let you see the mistake that I made? In the forward mode, he says, does Ryan care when he pushes to improve the community? If you just put your account and not care, how can you miss reporting a corrected view that could be better? Let's listen to that.
That's why I care. Like, pushes to when I'm being dandy. You just, what your account? Yeah.
Nice kiss.
Let me just play that one more time because it lagged a bit.
That's why I care. Like, pushes to when I'm being dandy. You just, what your account? Yeah.
Nice kiss.
Okay, in the next reverse part, he says, it will help that we know he'll remind you of it and show you sections of the times he's not perfect. Seriously, he will have a fair amount to show you. He'll correct you also. So a good core should praise your work and actions. That kind of moves on to the forward bit a bit, but let's hear the reversal here.
Sakes, yeah.
Okay, before we move on to the next forward, what if you're a person that's really religious and you have to tell God, I think I know more about religion than he does, and I'm a much more religious person, so why should I listen to anything that he says? So in the last part he says he'll correct you also.
try to back the way don't do it.
Okay, I think he's talking about, he says, he'll correct you also, so a good core should praise your work and actions. And don't try and bluff your way through until it hurts your relationships. And that could be perhaps somebody that has a working relationship with me or even a relationship with God. And then Danny basically says that he's done at the end. But there's still a reversal to this part that he just said, so let's hear what that is. I'll tell you what he says first. He says, and I know you are feeling a change. And he says a name again. If you listen, you will have miracles, as heaven can hear you and listens to you.
And I know that
Let me play that name again first, so I'll just go back over that. Start from here. It's kind of neat when God and the angels say, if you listen to God and try and find how God is speaking to you, and the angels are speaking to you here or any other way that you can find it, that he'll allow miracles, and because he listens to what you need as well. And I think it's pretty incredible how the angels let us know that. And that's exactly what they're trying to do here. So I think that's it for now. I'm going to stop and make the video, add it to the end of this, and post it up for Easter Sunday. And I hope you have a great Easter weekend. Talk to you later.
you're such a sweetheart.
What are you doing? Oh, I don't buy it.
You're not useless, does he? Next time I'll have to try and set the tripod up so I can get it steady instead of just holding the camera like this, eh? Yes, eller merken i låses deres. Hidets ringpels parapersket des nærmeste farmasken. Nice wings. Else, yeah. There goes that TV again, eh? En hij geeft niet te zorgen.
Yeah, when you there, get there. Maybe I can continue to hide shit. Maybe I can leave your corner. Where do you? Bushes don't put a baby dandy. You just, what here, go? Yeah.
Nice kiss.
It's great, Gordy. Alright, help you. I could be get her.
Sexy.
Don't try it back, no, I don't do it.
Good boy, Danny. And I know, look.